Across Africa, a new wave of bold leadership is rising, and Ibrahim Traoré is at the heart of it. Following the spirit of Traoré's fearless stand for sovereignty, Ghana has just made a stunning move. The government has ordered every foreign gold trader to leave its small-scale gold industry. No warnings, no negotiations. Just a firm deadline: April 30, 2025. This decisive action echoes the same spirit of defiance we've seen from Ibrahim Traoré, who has become a symbol of African pride and independence. Are we witnessing the Traoré Effect sweeping across the continent? Stay tuned. This is history in the making. However, why would a tranquil country in West Africa suddenly jeopardize billions of dollars in international investment? What gem has Ghana discovered that it will not allow foreign gold dealers to possess? Let's investigate. There were murmurs at first, a few sentences buried in government briefings that the world press hardly noticed. The Ghanaian president then took the podium, looked everyone in the eye, and made an announcement that nobody had ever believed was conceivable. A due date. A set date that cannot be changed. 30 April 2025. On that day, Ghana ends decades of foreign control over its domestic gold market. No foreigner, foreign business, or outsider will be permitted to purchase gold directly from Ghana's small-scale and artisanal miners after that day. Not through backdoor brokers, not in the bush, and not in the markets. No more. When he said it, the room fell silent. However, a silent shock reverberated behind that calm in diplomatic halls from Brussels to Beijing, in trading rooms in Shanghai and London. Because this was more than simply a rule. This was opposition. Ghana's small-scale mining sector, which generates about half of the nation's gold, has long functioned like an open-air marketplace without fences. Foreign buyers brought power, vehicles, and money. They became essential to miners who were barely making enough money to get by. And without requesting permission, they established an empire in secret, one that was maintained by legal loopholes rather than the rule of law. The door is being slammed shut now, though. Without the customary fanfare, the deadline arrived. Just a line in gold dust, no multi-year phase-outs, no white papers. Yes, foreign traders can apply to purchase gold from Ghana, but only through Goldbad, a recently created state organization. No more unregistered purchases or side dealings. You will receive Ghana's gold on its terms if you desire it. For those who paid attention, the indications had been there for years, but for many others, it was a shock. With foreign bosses, foreign machinery, and occasionally even foreign security guards, rural mining towns had turned into miniature foreign colonies. While operating on Ghanaian soil, miners were responding to commands in Arabic or Mandarin, and taxes hardly crept in while gold poured out by the ton. That was not only humiliating, but also aggravating for a nation that sat atop one of Africa's most abundant mineral treasures. It was also a personal matter for President Mahama. According to people close to the administration, a pattern of disrespect rather than a single incident served as the tipping point. Bribery is being used by unregistered foreign traders to gain access to restricted areas. Airport manifests are showing a disappearance of gold shipments. While schools in areas wealthy in gold lacked literature, smugglers managed to circumvent customs. No future, no toilets. The government has been under pressure for years to keep investors happy, which made the situation worse. However, the phrase "upsetting investors" started to sound a lot like intentionally keeping the nation weak. Therefore, the deadline was more than just a policy when it was proclaimed. There was a message. Your resource farm is not us. Your playground is not us. Our gold is this. The world took note. Rumors spread quickly throughout Ghana's gold towns. Assets were liquidated by foreign buyers, some of whom had been doing business in the nation for more than 10 years. Others made an effort to change course by offering to establish training facilities, collaborate with nearby businesses, or make donations to neighborhood projects. But generosity didn't appeal to the government. It desired a shift. actual structural change that is enforceable. Cleaning up the system was not the only goal of the deadline. It sought to break the reliance that had left Ghana's gold market open to manipulation. Foreign traders have been dictating prices, evading export declarations, and shifting profits offshore for far too long. Ghana has been the host while others hosted the profits for far too long. Here's what made it daring, though. Trade was not cancelled by Ghana. It was rewired. The overseas traders are not completely prohibited from dealing in gold. They are being routed via Goldbot, a centralized regulator that doubles as a guardian and gatekeeper. It is now mandatory to declare, price, and tax any gold acquired from small-scale miners in a transparent and traceable manner. To many observers, Ghana appears to be tightening its grip. However, it feels like something unusual is happening to Ghanaians, particularly the small-scale miners who have been mistreated for generations. A government that prioritizes its citizens over its bottom line. The deadline is risky, of course. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. There is already a growing international pushback. According to reports, some embassies have asked for clarification. Others are crafting subdued cautions on the confidence of investors. Ghana, however, is not backing down. Because optics is no longer the issue here. It involves revising a system that was never intended to serve the interests of the nation. Here's something to note, though. Unless something is seriously broken, you cannot set a deadline like April 30. And it wasn't just broken, it was bleeding in Ghana's gold sector. Gold worth billions of dollars disappeared into thin air every year. It was not a clerical mistake. No decline in the market. Recently left the nation's books and entered private ownership. The official number. Losses of $2.3 billion per year. Silent defeats. Unlawful losses. Not invisible, but untraceable. Since there were signs everywhere. If you were aware of where to search. Large shipments leaving from obscure airports are unusual. Even though Ghana's mines were producing at almost record levels, miners are grumbling about being paid significantly less than market value, export records that didn't match what local dealers were receiving, and most damning of all, a national treasury that is still starving of gold revenue. You must comprehend the workings of the gold shadow economy in order to comprehend how that type of money disappears. It begins in the mines, the smaller, gritty ones scattered over the countryside, not the deep, high-tech corporate brains of global corporations. Sometimes legal, sometimes not, but always desperate to sell. These are usually only a few men, a few tools, and a pit. This is where the foreign purchasers enter, using pickup trucks and envelopes full of cash, rather than formal trade agreements or embassies. They don't arrive dressed in suits, far from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources view. They run their operations out of hotels and compounds in small rural communities. The local languages are spoken by them. Wads of foreign currency are in their possession. Additionally, they always make quick payments that are always less than the global price, but frequently more than local dealers can afford. Simply said, it's a scam. The miner's earnings barely cover his family's expenses. The gold is given to the buyer. The state also receives nothing. From there, the gold travels, sometimes by road across borders, sometimes concealed in oil drums or car batteries, sometimes on private planes with forged manifests, and sometimes directly into cargo headed for Dubai, Hong Kong, or Istanbul, where it is easier to falsify paperwork and customs officials are paid to ignore suspicion. These are not haphazard smugglers. Rather, they are networks that are well organized, profitable, and practiced. Many of them have the support of international business interests that are well versed in taking advantage of Ghana's weaknesses. Some of these networks have been linked to Middle Eastern customers, Chinese-affiliated syndicates, and even shadow partners within Ghana, such as local officials who accept payments in return for their quiet. According to reports from watchdog organizations and investigative journalists. But what that $2.3 billion might have signified is more important than the gold alone. In areas that produce gold, like Wassa Amenfi, the funds could have been used to fix crumbling school structures. In rural Ashanti, it might have covered the cost of mobile clinics. For the villages whose rivers were contaminated by uncontrolled mining, it may have constructed water treatment facilities. Rather, it funded bank accounts in Hong Kong, constructed holiday houses in Dubai, and vanished into the world's underground market. The ridiculous thing is that Ghana didn't require foreign traders in the first place. The nation has the infrastructure, manpower, and resources to manage its gold, but up until now it lacked control, or rather, the resolve to impose it. The 2.3 billion leak is more than a figure. The crackdown was justified by the smoking gun. It provided Mahama's government with the firepower it required to defy international pressure and act decisively. A top official was said to have responded, "We're not banning trade," when asked why Ghana was adopting such a strict position. "We're outlawing taking." But the resistance has already started. Trade disruptions are being warned about by lobby organizations. Some nations have subtly hinted that this type of nationalism could undermine investment trust in West Africa, and foreign investors are threatening legal action. However, the figures are honest. Ghana loses $3 in stolen gold for every dollar it makes in international investment. The people on the ground are aware of the facts, and the balance sheet speaks louder than diplomats. Any miner in the Western region will tell you about foreign dealers who have offered police officers bribes. Of all goods being diverted before they even arrive at Tama Port, and of gold disappearing from evidence lockers. They don't find the $2.3 billion shocking. They're surprised that nobody noticed sooner. The period of silent thievery may now be about to an end, as Gold Board is getting ready to take complete control of the industry and international dealers are facing eviction. However, stopping the theft is just the first step, because there is environmental harm in addition to economic harm. Additionally, poison rivers are more difficult to heal than money. What effect will this have on Ghana is the question now. On paper, change is meaningless unless it inspires people. And now that Ghana has reorganized the rules of gold, developed its weapon, and drawn its line, the concern is not what was done, but rather what it will do. The decision's repercussions would not only affect international traders or smugglers, they will also affect ordinary Ghanaians' homes, communities, ministries, and marketplaces. Revenue reclamation will be the greatest direct effect. Ghana's government might recoup billions of dollars in lost revenue if Goldbad is able to seize what was previously leaking into the illicit market. It's more than just paper money. At last, that revenue may be allocated, taxed, and reinvested. Clean water initiatives in mining areas won't require ministries to plead with donors. There would be no 3-year wait for oxygen devices at district health clinics. Capacity was never the lacking component. The capital was there, and money is finally returning home. However, money cannot transform a nation on its own. The actual result will depend on how it is used. Redirecting gold income to the areas that were most exploited, such as Upper Dankira, Pristaya, and Bibiani, is one of the reform's most significant pledges. These regions saw the flow of billions of dollars worth of gold for decades, but their schools crumbled due to neglect and their roads turned to muck. By guaranteeing that royalties and development funding go back to the source rather than just the capital, this policy change has the potential to finally rewrite that story. Districts with active mining operations are actually entitled to a direct share of mineral royalties under Ghana's new mineral income framework, a mechanism that has long been disregarded. However, such payments can no longer be evaded, postponed, or fudged because to Gold Board's accurate gold tracking. For the first time, the accounting will be open to the public, the data can be tracked, and anybody can observe. And that change is psychological as much as economic. Because gold miners, particularly small-scale artisanal laborers, were viewed as expendable labor for many years. They were seen as irrelevant, unruly, and untamed. In actuality, however, these miners are the backbone of an industry that accounts for more than 1/3 of Ghana's total gold production. By acknowledging their importance and incorporating them into the nation's economic planning, in addition to raising their pay, the government is also improving their standing. That shift is important. This implies that these miners won't have to sell their goods for scraps, in secret, or to purchasers who don't care about their safety and don't understand their language. Their job is valued rather than criminalized with fixed price, official protection, and legal selling methods. It turns become a career rather than a means of survival. Additionally, this gives the local industry long overdue chances. Ghanaian businesses can now participate in the whole gold value chain, from jewelry manufacturing to export logistics and refining, since foreign customers have been eliminated. These days, it's more about building than digging. If the state supports it appropriately, a whole ecosystem of jobs, skills, and businesses might arise. However, the political impact is arguably the most underappreciated. The balance of power between the Ghanaian government and its people may be drastically altered by this reform. The storyline was, the gold is here, but the power is elsewhere, for much too long. That equation is now evolving. Trust can increase when citizens perceive that their government is prepared to take on influential foreigners in order to save domestic resources. Not only in the gold board institution, but also in the more general notion that sovereignty might be actual rather than merely symbolic. Not to be overlooked is the message this conveys to Ghana's youth. This is an uncommon instance of bravery in a nation where unemployment and disappointment are prevalent, demonstrating that leaders may act not only in the interest of dominations or foreign investors, but also in the benefit of the country as a whole. This change is more than just a policy. It is a precedent for a generation that was brought up on broken promises. It asserts that you can live in the now without sacrificing your future. None of this is assured, of course. The key will be implementation. If gold board becomes corrupt, if bureaucracy stifles creativity, like so many previous opportunities, this one will decay if elites divert the money back to themselves. However, this choice will not only affect Ghana. It will define it if it succeeds, if the money flows, if the miners ascend, and if the villages prosper. Keep one thing in mind. Ghana isn't the only team playing with fire, even though it may have sparked the match. A silent uprising is emerging in West Africa, with policies, not with speeches or coups, with the law, with audacious choices that portend a more profound change. Africa is fed up with waiting for approval to possess what is rightfully theirs. Others are already doing the same with oil, uranium, cotton, and even transit lines, as Ghana just did with gold. A harsh reality is dawning on the continent. It was badly run, but never bad. For instance, Burkina Faso. Under Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the Sahelian state that was once referred to as a forgotten state is currently revamping its whole financial structure. Previously moving into private accounts in Dubai and French vaults, gold is currently being processed domestically. In addition to expelling the French military, Traoré also expelled the intermediaries. His central purchasing authority, his state-owned refinery, and his refusal to follow IMF recommendations all indicate the same thing. Africa is taking back the initiative. The change is just as unrepentant in Mali. The government banned some NGOs for allegedly interfering in domestic matters and shattered military cooperation agreements with the West. However, something more significant is hidden beneath the politics. Economic independence. Mali is looking at new gold deals with China and Russia, not only for political reasons, but also because those alliances don't carry colonial baggage or covert threats. Then there is Niger, where millions of people languish in darkness, while uranium has been used to fuel the lights in Europe for decades. ECOWAS tensions, diplomatic reorganizations. Given a more proactive leadership, Niger is at last considering who stands to gain from its wealth in radioactivity. The solution? not from Nigeria. This is a pattern, not only a coincidence. Ghana's gold reform is a perfect fit for it. Because Mahama's actions were more than just repairing a damaged industry. They were a statement, and other leaders are now paying close attention to it. Ghana's ability to expel foreign gold traders while maintaining economic viability creates a risky precedent for people who have made their fortunes by relying on Africans. African economies were mired in cycles of reliance for many years. Take something from the West, export it to the West, and get something in return. Debt. Institutions that are weak. Infrastructure that is broken. A new playbook is now being developed. One in which the terms of commerce are set by African states. One that uses locally produced raw materials. One in which value remains nearer the mine. Ghana's gold reform is at the heart of that strategy, together with the field and the port. Do you believe that the moment has arrived for Africa to undergo permanent change? What would happen if Africa as a whole followed suit? What do you think the West will do about this? Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.